Hi, I'm Megan and welcome to my kitchen. In today's What's for Dinner video, I'll be sharing with you what meals we had this past week. Our dinners were easy to make, budget friendly, and delicious. So if you're looking for some weeknight meal ideas for your family, just keep watching. For dinner this first night, I tried a new recipe for baked spaghetti. This is from the Cozy Cook, and of course the recipe will be linked in my description box below for you. So I've got the oven preheating to 375 degrees. While that's preheating, I'm going to get started on my sauce. In this skillet, I've got a little bit of olive oil. This is on about medium heat. I'm going to add in some diced onion, red bell pepper, and mushrooms. Here I've got about a half a pound of ground turkey. You could also use ground beef or even Italian sausage. I'm going to season that up with some salt and pepper, and then I am going to kind of chop the meat up with this meat chopper and then cook this for maybe 10 minutes or so until the ground meat is cooked all the way through. Now, if you're using sausage or ground beef, you may have to drain the fat off. Here is the pasta that I'm going to use. This is the Barilla Protein Plus Thin Spaghetti. I'm just going to boil it up in salted water according to the package instructions. So once that ground turkey was cooked all the way through and the veggies were tender, I'm going to add in the Rayo's marinara sauce. I really like this marinara sauce. It can be a little pricey, so I either get it when it goes on BOGO at Publix or I get it from Sam's Club. You can use whatever pasta sauce you like, or you can, of course, make your own. Now, I'm going to add some salt and pepper, and then here I meant to add the minced garlic to the ground turkey, but I forgot, but that's totally fine. I'm going to add it now. And then I like to doctor up spaghetti sauce anytime I use it. So I'm going to add in a little garlic powder and Italian seasoning. And then I like to add just a tiny pinch of sugar. If that offends you, don't add it to your spaghetti sauce. You're in your kitchen, you do you. This Rayo sauce doesn't have any added sugar. It's just the tomatoes and some seasoning. So I like to add just a tiny little pinch to that. And then I'm going to let this simmer for about 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, and of course, give it a taste. Make sure you're happy with the seasonings and everything. I'm going to add in some cream cheese. Now, the recipe suggested just softened cream cheese, but I had some of this whipped cream cheese, so I'm going to add that in. And a quick note, I forgot to mention this. I halved the recipe. To the cream cheese, I'm going to add in ricotta. You could also use cottage cheese here. If you're not a big fan of ricotta cheese normally, I would try it in this recipe because with it mixed into the spaghetti sauce, you don't have that same like dry texture with ricotta cheese if that kind of, turns you off from using it. Now I'm going to add in some Parmesan cheese. I shredded this myself, but you could just use the grated kind. I'm going to give that a stir. The stove is off at this point. I'm just going to allow that to kind of carry over, cook, and allow the cheeses to melt. Now I'm going to add in my cooked and drained pasta. And again, I'm using thin spaghetti. You could use really any kind. I mean, this is called baked spaghetti, but you can use any shape of pasta. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to give the noodles a really good toss, and then we're going to get this in the oven. So here, I think this is an 8x11. I sprayed it with some cooking spray. I'm going to add in that spaghetti mixture, and then we're going to add some more cheese on top. This is that shredded Parmesan cheese, and really I'm just adding that because I have it this little bit and I need to use it up. And then the recipe called for just regular shredded mozzarella, but I had about a half of container of fresh sliced mozzarella. So I just kind of pulled that apart with my fingers and did like a hand shredded mozzarella cheese. This is going to go into the preheated oven. Remember, it was set at 375, and I baked this for about 20 minutes until it was bubbly and golden brown on top. This is what it looked like, and then I allowed it to sit for about 10 minutes, and then I added some fresh chopped basil to the top. To go along with this spaghetti, I've got these New York Bakery breadsticks. I just find these at Walmart, Kroger, Publix, and I feel like these are pretty similar to the breadsticks at the Olive Garden. I mean, they're not as good, but if you love those breadsticks, give these a try because they're pretty darn close. I just bake them according to the package instructions, and then once they are done, I like to brush them with just a little bit of butter on top. Here are the plates. So we've got some of the baked spaghetti, the garlic breadsticks, and then I just made some side salads. Both Gary and I really, really loved this baked spaghetti. I will definitely make this again. I and Gary both felt like it tasted very, very similar to lasagna, except, you don't have to do all the layering and it's not as time consuming as lasagna. And like I said earlier, I know some people don't love the texture of ricotta cheese or even cottage cheese, and mixing that along with the pasta sauce, you still got that creaminess of the cheese without that texture. So this was really good, super budget friendly, very filling. This made a ton. We had leftovers for lunch for a couple days days, and it was even better the subsequent days. This was really, really good. Like I said, I'll definitely make this again. Dinner the next night was not on the meal plan, but I bought a rotisserie chicken to use for lunches for us, and I had some of it left over that needed to be used up, so I decided to do Poppyseed chicken casserole. I've shared this before on my channel, but wanted to share it again. This is a classic Southern, casserole dish. I know if you're from the South, you've probably seen this, but again, just wanted to share in case you haven't. So with the oven preheating to 350 degrees, in this bowl, I'm going to add in my cooked chicken. Like I said, I'm using rotisserie chicken that I diced up. You can, of course, use leftover chicken or boil up your own chicken. Next, I'm going to add in a can of cream of chicken soup, and I'm just doing like a regular recipe. It does like an 8x8 or a 9x9. I would say it serves 3 to 4 people, but if you're needing to feed more than that, I'd double up on the recipe. Next, I'm going to add in some sour cream, and I have made this before where I've used plain non-fat Greek yogurt. Now we're making poppy seed chicken, so of course we're going to add in some poppy seeds. If you don't have these or don't want to use them, you can totally skip it. Now you can add whatever additional seasonings you want to. A lot of times I just keep it simple and do some salt and pepper, but I decided to add in some garlic powder tonight, and then I'm coming in with that pepper. Now as far as the salt goes, I added just a little bit. You do want to be mindful of how much salt you're adding because the sour cream and cream of chicken soup can have salt. Now I'm going to give that a really, really good mix until it is very well combined, and at that point I'm going to place it into my greased casserole dish and then spread that out into a somewhat even mixture. Once I've got that spread out, it is time for, in my opinion, what's the best part of this casserole, and that is the buttery cracker topping. So here I've got a sleeve of crackers. I think these are Townhouse crackers. You can use Ritz. I'm going to crush those up, combine them with some melted butter, and then we are going to sprinkle those buttered crackers over the top. Some recipes I've also seen call for you to add some more poppy seeds on top as a little garnish, but that's optional. So I'm going to place this into the preheated oven. Again, it was set at 350 degrees, and I baked this for about 25 to 30 minutes until it was bubbly and those crackers were golden brown. And I do like to let this sit for about 10 minutes before I serve it up. Now, I believe the last time I made this, we decided kind of on a whim to serve this over some white rice, and it was really good. We really enjoyed that, so I decided to do it again tonight. I just cooked up some instant white rice in the microwave according to the package instructions. And then for this side, I had a little bit of fresh broccoli on hand that I needed to use up, so I cut it into florets, added it to a glass bowl, added in a couple tablespoons of water, covered it in some plastic wrap, microwaved it for about 5 minutes until the broccoli was tender, drain the water off of it, and mix it with some salt and pepper and some cheese sauce. Now, I didn't have a ton of broccoli left over, so I really more made that for Gary. I decided to make myself some butter beans. He doesn't love them necessarily. He'll eat them, but so I decided the butter beans would be for me. I don't know why they look this weird brown color on camera, but they tasted just fine. I just took a can of butter beans and then simmered them with some chicken stock, a little bit of brown sugar, salt and pepper until the beans were tender, about 20 minutes or so. And then last but not least, I did a can of regular whole kernel corn drained with a small 8-ounce can of creamed corn, and I just warmed that up with a tiny pat of butter and some salt and pepper on the stove on medium low heat. Here are the plates. So I laid down some of the rice, added the poppy seed chicken casserole. For Gary's plate, he has the cheesy broccoli and some corn. And then for me, I've got the butter beans and the corn. And this was such a yummy, comforting dinner. Like I said, I love that poppy seed chicken casserole. It's super quick and easy to put together, and it's a great way to use up leftover chicken. Dinner the next night was also off a meal plan, but I didn't really feel like cooking and we weren't super hungry, so I just decided to do some quick BLTs. Just cooked up the bacon. I like to put it on a baking sheet, pop it into a cold oven, and then turn the oven up to 400 degrees and cook the bacon for about 20 minutes or so until it's done to our liking, and then drain it on some paper towels. So we just had the BLTs along with some tater tots that I cooked up in the air fryer with ketchup to dip in, and that was our dinner this night. The next night was kind of like our eat out night, and we weren't feeling the greatest. I mean, we're fine. It's just the weather changes and spring weather and everything messing with our allergies and sinuses. So we didn't really feel like going anywhere. And y'all, nothing sounded good except yeast rolls to me. Of all the weird things, that's what sounded good to me. And I wanted Texas Roadhouse, but we didn't feel like going and picking it up, and they didn't like do DoorDash or Uber Eats or anything. So closest thing was Logan's Roadhouse. We haven't eaten at Logan's in years and years and years. But I got their teriyaki chicken, and I didn't know that it came with rice. So I also got their loaded mashed potatoes on the side. I ended up not eating those. We saved those for another day. But to go along with that, I had their side salad. And then for Gary, I wasn't really sure what he would want. He was taking a nap when I ordered it. And I wasn't really sure what he wanted. So I just got him some buffalo wings. So I figured if he wasn't necessarily hungry when he got up, he could reheat those later. And then I got him some fries to go along with that. And yeah, that was our dinner this night. And by the way, that teriyaki chicken from Logan's, it was really delicious. It was so, so good. Dinner the next night was so super easy. We just did a frozen pizza. I had this Motor City Pizza Company pepperoni pizza in the freezer, and so I just baked it up according to the package instructions. If you've never had this, this is really good. It's delicious. So once that was out of the oven, I let it sit for a few minutes and then sliced it up. We topped ours with some grated Parmesan cheese and then some of the Mike's Hot Honey. If you have not tried hot honey on especially pepperoni pizza, you got to give it a try. I know it might sound weird, but it is so, so good. It adds a little sweetness and a little spice. It is delicious. Gary wasn't super hungry this night, and I was pretty hungry. So in addition to the pizza, I also made myself a side salad, and that was our dinner this night. For the last dinner in this week's video, I had some cheese that I'd bought at Aldi that really needed to be used up, so I decided to make like a kind of gourmet macaroni and cheese. To start out though, I'm going to make a homemade balsamic vinaigrette dressing to go with the macaroni and cheese. I wanted to do a really light salad. So in this little measuring glass, I'm going to pour out some balsamic vinegar. You could use whatever kind of balsamic vinegar you want. There is an olive oil store here in Nashville. They have a few different locations, and they do all kinds of flavored olive oils and vinegars. I mentioned them before on my channel. I'm not sponsored, by the way. They have no clue who I am. But I got this little sample kit there, and so I decided to do the peach balsamic vinegar and then the basil olive oil. So I'm going to add that to a little mason jar, and I didn't have quite enough of the basil olive oil, so I've topped it off with just some regular olive oil. Once I've got that measured out, I'm going to pour it into, like I mentioned, a mason jar. Mason jars are really great for vinaigrettes because you can give them a really, really good shake as you're mixing it up. And then, you know, whenever you go to serve it, you can give it another quick shake. So I'm going to add in some minced garlic and then Dijon mustard. And then I'm going to season to taste with some freshly cracked black pepper and some salt. Now, I will put the recipe that I kind of loosely followed in the description box below for you. Now, here is another thing. I love these little plastic mason jar lids. I get them on Amazon. I'll try to remember to put the link down below. It will be an affiliate link, but you can totally just Google like plastic mason jar lids. I love having them on hand. So again, just give it a really, really good shake. Make sure you taste your vinaigrette though and adjust it to your taste. If you want it more acidic, add more of your vinegar. You know, you can add lemon, you can add more Dijon, different spices. Just make sure you get it to where you like it. And then I'm going to just pop that in the fridge until we're ready for it for dinner. Now I'm going to get started on grating the cheese. So I've got this block of Gouda, and again, I got this at Aldi. I just like to cut it in half to make it fit in the grater easier, and I love this grater. I think this is the second one I've bought, and I just love it. It does cheese, vegetables, all kinds of things, and it goes in the dishwasher, so it's super easy. Now I'm going to do the other cheese I got. This is cheddar Gruyere. Again, got this at Aldi. Again, cutting that in half to make it easier to go into the shredder. And then look, in like no time at all, I've got the cheese grated. Now, it does look a little more awkward and messy than normal, but it was backwards to me and I couldn't see what I was doing. So once I've got that cheese grated up, it is time to make our macaroni and cheese. In this pot, and this is the same pot I boiled my noodles up in, so it's clean. I wiped it out. I melted up some butter. I'm going to add in the flour and give that a really good whisk. And once I've given that a good whisk, I'm going to cook the flour for a couple minutes. And you want to make sure you give that flour a minute or two to cook so that that raw flour taste comes out. Next, I'm going to add in a can of evaporated milk. You could use whole milk, you could use heavy cream, half and half, whatever you prefer, but the evaporated milk is really good, and you can keep this on hand in the pantry. So I'm going to gradually add in that milk and whisk it constantly, and as it is heating up, I'm going to add in my seasonings. Use whatever seasonings you like. I like to add some dry mustard powder, garlic powder, and smoked paprika, along with some freshly cracked black pepper. Now, I like to hold off on adding any salt until I get my cheeses in there, because your cheeses, can have differing ranges of saltiness. So I'm going to give that a whisk. And again, this has simmered for just a few minutes, and then it becomes thick. As you can see here, I can wipe the spoon and it holds just fine. Now, this is totally optional, but I like to add in just maybe a tablespoon or two of cream cheese. It just makes it more creamy, gives it more luxurious texture. Now I'm going to add in some of the shredded cheese that we shredded up just a minute ago. And then I had actually found some grated or shredded Parmesan cheese in my fridge that needed to be used up, so I'm going to add that in as well. Now this was a little thick for my liking, so I'm going to add in a little more milk. And once the cheeses are melted, that is, pretty much our cheese sauce is done. Now, I decided on a whim to add in some bacon. So this is just some of the Hormel pre-cooked bacon, a couple slices. I popped in the microwave and then chopped it up. At this point, give your sauce a taste, adjust the seasonings to your taste. If you're happy with it, it is time to add in our pasta. I've just got some elbow macaroni noodles. I cooked this up in some salted water according to the package instructions and drained it, and then give that a stir. And this is what it looked like, so creamy and dreamy. This is totally fine to serve just as it is, and you have a yummy stovetop macaroni and cheese, but I'm going to turn it into a baked macaroni and cheese. And because we're doing a little fancy with the Gouda and the Irish or the cheddar Gruyere, I'm going to do like a panko topping. So in this little bowl here, I'm going to add in some panko breadcrumbs, season it up however you want. I'm going to add in a little seasoned salt, and then you could add some melted butter. I'm going to add a little bit of avocado oil and give that a really good stir. Now, you could add some Parmesan cheese or cooked and crumbled bacon to the breadcrumbs, but I added it into the macaroni and cheese, so I'm just going to leave this as is. Now, to a greased casserole dish, I'm going to lay down about half the macaroni and cheese. I'm going to sprinkle on some of that same shredded cheese we used in the mac and cheese. I'm going to add the remaining macaroni and cheese, followed by another layer of the shredded cheese. And then last but not least, we're going to add the panko breadcrumbs on top. Now, like I mentioned earlier, you can totally skip this step altogether and just do the stovetop. But if you are baking it, everything's already cooked. So really, you're just getting everything kind of warmed through and bubbly golden brown. I baked this in a preheated 350-degree oven for about 20-25 minutes or so. And then I did decide to broil it for just a minute or two to get the breadcrumbs a little extra golden brown. Just if you do broil it, make sure you watch it like a hawk. And then I allowed it to sit for about 10 minutes while it rested and while I made the side salad, which here is what I decided to do for the side salad. In this bowl, I'm going to add in some spinach and then spring mix. And I like to just kind of use my hands as I'm putting it into the bowl so I can pull out any of the little yucky, brown pieces of lettuce. Next, we're going to add some dried cranberries and honey roasted pecans. And then I'm going to add some apple. And I just decided to give this a rough dice. Once I've added the apple, it is time to add in that vinaigrette we made earlier. So I'm just giving it another good shake. I'm going to drizzle that on. And I really wanted to add some feta, but I kind of went back and forth because there was a ton of cheese in the macaroni and cheese. But I did decide to add just a little bit because, we've got the sweet apples, the cranberries, the nuts, and then that kind of slightly sweeter vinaigrette. So I did add a little feta to kind of balance that out. Just give it a really good toss. And then here is my plate. Gary ate later than I did because he was at the gym, but he had the same thing that I did. I just did a small portion of that macaroni and cheese. It is so decadent and creamy and just luxurious and heavy that you really don't need a big portion at all. We had tons of leftovers for days. And so this salad, with the freshness and the sweetness, it really balanced that macaroni and cheese out really well. This was a delicious dinner, a great way to use some things up. All right, that is it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video. I hope you got some dinner ideas from it. If you did like it, hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to my channel if you're not already. And I hope you have a great rest of the week. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.